Alright, what's up guys? So today I wanted to just make a video talking about all of the Nintendo Switch 2 news. We just got the Direct and we got a lot of news about the console after the fact as well. We also got news about a lot of the new games coming out, but you know the one thing that we didn't get any news about whatsoever? Yeah, you guessed it, Splatoon. Before we continue, if you guys enjoy this video, please remember to drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and also leave a comment letting me know what you think of all the Switch 2 news. Obviously, this is a Splatoon-centered video, but at the end, I will kind of give my quick general thoughts on everything, so if you're curious, be sure to stick around for that. Okay, so let me just be clear. No, I was not expecting Splatoon 4 to be announced during the Switch 2 Direct. That would be ridiculous. In fact, I was surprised to hear that a good amount of people were expecting that. In my personal opinion, I think it's just way too soon for a new Splatoon game. I really do think it would be better if Nintendo just kept updating Splatoon 3 for the time being and let it cook a little more, which doesn't seem to be happening either. In the Direct, they talked about how there's going to be Switch 2 edition games, so they'll be updating games that were made for the original Switch and giving them new features like enhanced graphics, frame rates, some new modes, and of course, incorporating some of the new unique Switch 2 features into the games, such as being able to utilize the Joy-Con mouse mode in Metroid Prime 4. Now, with all the features and everything we know about the console now, making a Switch 2 version of Splatoon 3 seemed like an obvious play. They would update the graphics, let us be able to play it at 120 frames per second, and ideally, maybe give us some new maps and weapon kits. And of course, the most obvious thing that we all expected was to add support for the mouse mode. But unfortunately, Splatoon was not mentioned in this Direct whatsoever. There was no mention of a Switch 2 edition existing, and the game was pretty much not even acknowledged at all. It got like one 5-second clip during the part where they talked about the new game chat thing. It's just very weird how Nintendo treats this game nowadays. Now yes, of course, does this mean that there for sure won't be a Switch 2 edition of Splatoon 3? No, of course not. There absolutely could still be one, and they just didn't talk about it. Apparently, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is getting a Switch 2 edition, and they didn't mention that in the Direct, so any game could be a candidate still. However, after thinking about it for a while, I don't think they're going to do a Switch 2 edition for Splatoon 3. Here's why. First of all, I do think that if they were to make a Switch 2 edition of Splatoon 3, that would absolutely be something they would have highlighted in the Direct, because it's the game that would arguably benefit the most from all these new Switch 2 features. The enhanced frame rate would be so important for this type of game, and the mouse controls would obviously add a whole new layer of depth to the gameplay. So yeah, just the fact that they didn't mention it in the Direct really leads me to believe that there won't be one. But let's look into it a little further. If they were to make a Switch 2 edition of Splatoon 3, assuming people who are playing the Switch 2 edition can play with people who are using the original Switch 1 version, then the game would quite literally become play to win. Playing a shooter like this at 120 frames per second with enhanced graphics and most likely better input delay would quite literally be game changing. If you're a casual player, it might not seem like a big deal, but trust me, in more advanced lobbies, this type of thing will matter a lot. Now, Splatoon is one of the few series that Nintendo actually tries to keep competitively balanced. Yeah, you can argue that they don't do a great job at it, but the fact that they've given the game so many balance patches, and the fact that they're still doing one every few months, does tell us that they want the game to still be fair at a competitive level. I think that Nintendo is definitely aware of the advantages that a Switch 2 edition would give, so I think that might be why they're not bothering to make one. I guess if they did come out with one, they could make like separate servers for people playing the Switch 2 edition, but I really don't see them doing something like that. Now, don't get the wrong idea here. I absolutely do hope I'm wrong. I would love a Switch 2 edition of this game, even if it does cause some balancing issues as a result. And being able to use the mouse mode, while I'm not sure if it would be more optimal than using motion controls, I still want to try it out. Having the option there for people who want to use it can't be a bad thing. But yeah, I really hope I'm wrong and Nintendo actually does surprise us with a Switch 2 edition of Splatoon 3. But all I'm saying is, given everything we know and all the evidence we have, it just doesn't seem very likely, so I don't think anyone should get their hopes up. Now, sort of changing gears here, in the event that they don't make a Switch 2 edition of the game, then we're left asking ourselves the question, why did Nintendo abandon this game? Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's bizarre how little they want to promote this game, and it's been like that for a while. Not only the fact that they skipped out on adding a lot of great content that would ultimately help with the game's longevity, but even just with advertising, it seems like Nintendo wants nothing to do with this game anymore. It's like they just gave up with it and moved on. The only thing that sort of makes sense as to why they're doing this is maybe Splatoon 4 is closer than we all think. But again, if that's the case, I'd just be very surprised. I don't think Splatoon 3 has been out long enough to justify a new game. Yes, I know the time frame from Splatoon 1 to Splatoon 2 wasn't that long, but I do think that was kind of situational, and Splatoon 2 was obviously rushed. But anyway, oh, and also, if anything, I'd expect a new Animal Crossing game before a new Splatoon game, since it is the same team that makes both games. I feel like they'd be prioritizing that right now, if anything. So that's about all I wanted to say in regards to the lack of Splatoon news. Again, it's just weird how they treat the game, and I can't really think of a valid reason for it. If it really is that Splatoon 4 is coming in the near future, then all of you can make fun of me in the comments, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon, man. I did say that I give some quick thoughts on all of the Switch 2 news as a whole, and I feel like I'm actually a lot more positive than most people. I was actually very impressed with the specs of the console. Like, yeah, I did expect them to do 4K 60 frames per second, but I did not expect them to also add a 120 frames per second option. That just blew my mind. A Nintendo console having above 60 frames per second is just crazy to me. I never thought they'd do that. Mario Kart World looks insane. It might be the most hyped that I've ever been for a video game. If you guys didn't know, I am an absolute Mario Kart fanatic. I even used to play competitive before I got into Splatoon. And who knows, if Mario Kart World ends up being as good as it looks, I might return to competitive. And I definitely do want to make content for that game. I probably won't do it here, but I'll most likely be making a new YouTube channel for that. So if you're interested in any Mario Kart content from me, be sure to keep an eye out for that. I'll be sure to share the channel here when I make it. Now, of course, let's get to the elephant in the room here, the pricing, which seems to be all anyone is talking about. So I will say, I think the price for the console itself is fair. 450 bucks. I mean, yeah, that's definitely not cheap, but for the specs and tech that you're getting, I really do think that's a fine price. But of course, I can't say that about the price of the games. 80 bucks for Mario Kart is ludicrous. I was worried that all the games were gonna be $70, and then Nintendo's just like, oh nah, it's gonna be 80. Like, bro, what? Now, I did see that the Donkey Kong game is $70, so not every first party game is gonna be $80. That's good at least. And yes, of course, if you get the Switch and Mario Kart World bundle, you are saving 30 bucks. So obviously that's what I'm going to try to get. I do hope that Nintendo considers lowering the price of the games in the future, though unfortunately, I do think Mario Kart World is going to sell very well, so they most likely won't. But hey, you never know. But yeah, all in all, despite the pricing, I'm very excited for the new console, and I'm even more excited to just finally be able to play a new Mario Kart. Again, let me know what you all think down below regarding everything, the Switch 2, the pricing, Mario Kart, the lack of Splatoon news, all of that stuff. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.